The movie opens somewhere in Germany, where we see our protagonist, Malina, inside the trunk of a car. She has no idea where she is or how she got there, and she realizes that she can't move her legs. Just then, Malina sees a mysterious man in the distance who is coming towards her. She also notices her phone in a plastic bag nearby, along with her other belongings. As the man proceeds to break the side view mirror of the car, she quickly grabs her phone. The man then throws the mirror into the trunk and takes a sip from a whiskey bottle, while Malina pretends to be unconscious. He throws away Malina's belongings, unaware that she has recovered her phone. Malina then feels the car moving, and as she checks her phone, she sees the ultrasound photos she received from her pregnant sister, Moan. Malina immediately calls her boyfriend, Enno, but he doesn't pick up. Just then, she notices Enno's cap inside the trunk and becomes concerned that something bad has happened to him. Malina uses all of her strength to open the trunk, but to no avail. Moments later, she receives a call from her sister, Moan, who begins talking about the ultrasound and how tiny the baby was. Malina interrupts her and informs her that she has been kidnapped and is trapped in a car trunk. She urgently asks her sister to contact the police, but unfortunately, Moan thinks she's joking and wonders why she can't just be happy for her pregnancy without making everything about herself. Frustrated, Malina attempts to call the emergency helpline, but realizes her phone suddenly has no signal. She tries to understand why she's paralyzed. As a doctor herself, she quickly deduces that she was injected into the spinal canal and drugged. While struggling to get out, Malina finds her action camera in the trunk and plays it. She sees the recordings of her and Enno's recent trip and feels happy. She misses him a lot and begins to wonder if he might be okay. Shortly after, she discovers footage of the time when the kidnapper attacked them. The man attacks Enno and then approaches Malina, who is inside the car with the hidden camera. He then threatens her with a gun and forces her to drink some water. Here, Malina suspects the water must have caused her unconsciousness. The man then picks her up and places her in the trunk. For a brief moment, Malina notices his face on the video and clicks his picture with her phone. Just then, she receives a text from Moan, who has sent a WikiHow article about how to get out of the trunk of a car. Malina is angry at the text and then sends a voice message stating that she's not kidding about her situation, along with her current location, but the signal drops again. She then carefully reads through the WikiHow article about the steps to escape. She tries every method mentioned in the article, like opening the lock from inside or pushing the brake lights out, but it's actually way harder than it seems. Moments later, Malina gets the signal again and receives a call from her father, but she quickly tells him she will call him back. She hastily dials the emergency service and speaks with an operator named Elisa. Malina explains that she's been kidnapped and is trapped in a car trunk, while her legs feel numb. When asked how she was kidnapped, Malina explains that she and her boyfriend, Enno, were planning a 6-month vacation in South America. They hitchhiked to the airport, but the person who offered them a lift turned out to be a kidnapper. Elisa then inquires whether she remembers the license plate or can describe the vehicle. Malina can only recall the car being dark green, with no right side mirror. Unfortunately, Elisa explains that they can't track her location and asks where she is. Malina then looks at the map, but she can only describe a giant area that she can't describe in detail, while they can only see the nearest cell tower to her. Just then, Malina receives another call from her father, so she puts Elisa on hold. He's worried and mentions receiving a disturbing message about her. Since he doesn't approve of her relationship with Enno, he suspects they're making excuses to elope. Malina clarifies that she's actually in trouble, so her father reveals that he received an anonymous message demanding 250,000 euros for her return. He suspects it might be the work of someone called the Gabriels, with whom they have a feud. However, Malina doesn't think so. After this, Malina sends him a photo of the kidnapper and urges him to forward it to the police, but he hesitates. Dad says he will pay the money, but he is afraid they might have tapped their phones, and they will hurt her if he calls the cops. Annoyed, she ends the call with him and with Elisa as well. Later, Malina uses her phone's flashlight to figure out what happened, and she is horrified to discover a gaping wound near her waist on the left side. She realizes that she has been operated on, and the kidnappers have used staplers to attach the skin, causing her to lose quite a lot of blood. Feeling helpless, she pours alcohol on her wound and holds back her screams. Suddenly, she hears the kidnapper speaking to someone, stating that he has removed the kidney and will be at the location at 4:30 a.m., which is an hour from now. Malina then opens her shoe, and she will use her medical skills to stitch up the wound. To calm herself down, she plays a sweet voice message from Enno that he had sent her a long time ago. In pain, she begins to stitch her wound, threading her shoelace through each staple one by one. She hears Enno expressing his love for children and his desire to have at least 3 kids with her from the voice message. Despite the pain, she manages to secure the stitching with an earring and eventually stop the bleeding. Moments later, Elisa calls again, and Malina claims that her organ may have been removed and believes they are some kind of organ dealer. Plus, the kidnapper was talking to someone and saying he would be at a location at 4:30 a.m. Elisa keeps motivating her, saying she's doing her very best to help. All of a sudden, the car stops, and Malina figures out they must be at a gas station, so Elisa asks her to attract attention.
Open the trunk, please!
Malina then begins screaming and asking for help. But soon, the trunk door is opened, and it's the kidnapper. He tells Malina that no one will hear her and asks her to stay calm, because he doesn't want loud noises. Just then, Elisa begins speaking on the phone, so Malina starts screaming and discreetly hangs up. The man mentions that he needs her alive for the time being and touches her wounds, causing her more pain. He tells her it's better to remain silent and closes the trunk again. Frustrated, Malina starts screaming, so the kidnapper responds by playing loud music, annoying her further. Finally, Enno sends her a text message, claiming he is fine and they are watching him. This news makes Malina very happy, and she immediately informs Elisa about it. Enno was also being held hostage at an unknown location. Following this, Elisa tells Malina that they were able to locate the gas station they were at earlier and that her colleagues are on their way. She also explains that they have contacted Malina's father, who has provided them with a photo of the kidnapper. Her father mentions seeing this man wandering outside his hospital 2 weeks prior. Hearing this, Malina realizes the kidnapper has been following her for quite some time. Elisa then discusses with Malina about her father's suspicion of the Gabriels and asks about who they are. In response, our heroine reveals that she made a mistake during her second emergency operation, which resulted in the death of a young girl. Because of this, her family, the Gabriels, blamed Malina and filed a lawsuit against her. She admits that she felt so guilty that she thought of abandoning her medical career entirely. She also shares how Enno supported her and encouraged her to go back to work. To calm Malina down, Elisa asks how the two met, and Malina reveals that Enno got so drunk at a party that he ended up passing out. He was then admitted to the hospital, and she was the one who treated him. Malina also reveals that her family is completely against their relationship. During their conversation, Elisa suddenly screams and instructs her colleagues to set up roadblocks at multiple locations. Malina is frightened by this, as she assumed that her father is going to pay the ransom, and asks about the need for roadblocks, but the call disconnects. Frustrated, Malina texts Enno to call the cops and ask for an operator named Elisa. Moments later, she decides to get some tools from under the trunk. She gets a tire tool and uses it to take off the cover for the taillight. She then starts banging on the inside of the taillight. The kidnapper turns up the radio again to silence her, but she manages to break the taillight and can see what's happening outside. Malina then puts her hand outside and begins to scream for help, which is soon noticed by a man behind their car. The man quickly exits his vehicle and rushes towards her to help. But the kidnapper runs this man over and speeds away from there, while causing chaos on the road. Afterward, Malina attempts to call Elisa again, but she receives an error stating that the number is unrecognized. It is at this point that she receives a message stating that she has crossed Germany and arrived in the Czech Republic, which means she no longer has access to emergency services. Not long after, Elisa calls her with her personal number and inquires if the highway accident was caused by her kidnapper. Malina confirms it and feels hopeless, claiming she's going to die soon. Elisa tries to calm her down, but Malina gets frustrated and breaks a mirror. After this, she realizes something and uses a shard of the broken mirror to see the license plate number. She manages to get it and writes it down using her blood. Suddenly, Malina gets a very strange call from Enno, who pretends to be talking with her father. He pleads with Malina's father to pay the ransom for his daughter's safety. To her surprise, Enno explains that he is also in a car and claims they will be killed if stopped by police. Shortly after, Malina receives a call from Elisa, who informs her that her father has paid the ransom, but they haven't received any response from the kidnappers. She also reveals that the kidnapping seems to have nothing to do with the Gabriels. Elisa admits that they have conducted roadblocks everywhere, and now they just need the license plate. Malina stares at the license plate number, but she recalls what Enno said and decides not to share it. Moments later, Malina receives a text from Enno, urging her to remain quiet so they'll have a chance to escape. They then reach a checkpoint, where a police officer questions the driver about the handsome man sitting beside him and requests to see their passports. Although this is her perfect chance to take action, Malina decides to listen to her boyfriend and stays quiet. Next, the kidnapper begins driving away, and Malina again reviews the camera footage. But to her horror, as the kidnapper places her in the trunk, she observes Enno walking casually behind the kidnapper. Just then, she receives another call from Elisa, who mentions that they have recognized the car, and her colleagues will soon find her. Malina then asks her about the number that demanded the ransom from her father. After being pushed, Elisa begins reciting the number, and Malina shockingly discovers that it belongs to Enno. Here she is distraught that her beloved boyfriend has betrayed her trust. At this point, Elisa asks if Malina can hear the sounds of water, and Malina realizes that the car is now on a ferry crossing a lake.
Das ist nicht wahr. Ja.
Elisa and her team know where she is but can't get to her. Malina is on the verge of giving up, but Elisa claims that she will not be able to forgive herself if anything happens to her. Soon after their call disconnects, Malina texts Enno, demanding that he tell her the truth. She then hears someone getting out of the car and receives a call from Enno, who finally admits that he is involved in her kidnapping. Enno apologizes for his actions, revealing that the kidnapping was not supposed to unfold in this manner. He explains that the plan was for them to release her after receiving the ransom money, and he didn't know about the kidney. Hearing this, Malina asks why he did this, and Enno admits that he is in debt and involved in shady deals with dangerous people. Malina is devastated, and she begs him to help her escape. She tells him that her father has a large sum of money in his trust assets, which he will give to the kidnapper. Unfortunately, Enno does not care about her, and claims that giving her up is his only chance of survival. After the call, Malina realizes she cannot give up so easily. So, she sends Enno a picture of her sister's ultrasound and claims to be pregnant with their baby. She knows he loves children more than anything else in the world, and she decides to use this against him. Enno then asks if she is serious about this, so Malina admits that it is true, and that she intended to tell him during their vacation. Malina asserts that he will be the cause of his baby's death and hangs up the phone, leaving Enno speechless. In the next scene, we see Enno sitting in the front seat with the kidnapper. He suggests that if he releases Malina, they will receive much more money, but the kidnapper refuses. The kidnapper claims that the girl has already seen his face, so he won't let her go at any cost. As a last resort, Enno reveals that Malina is pregnant, but the kidnapper doesn't care. And then, to save his supposed child, Enno suddenly pulls the car's handbrake, resulting in a chaotic accident. Just as the car crashes, the trunk opens, and Enno appears in front of her, but before they can say anything, the kidnapper shoots Enno from behind. He then dumps his body in the trunk and wishes them a quality time. When the kidnapper begins driving, Enno passes away in the trunk. Malina cries and pleads with him not to abandon her and asks why he did this to her. She then finds a knife in his pocket, which she uses to cut the mattress underneath. And once she manages to do so, she's able to see the wheel from inside. It's 4 minutes before 4:30 a.m., Malina records an apology video for her family using the camera. She admits that she has made many bad decisions in her life, but she says she was just in love. She tells Moan that she would have loved to be an aunt and meet her child. Malina also states that if she dies, it will not be Elisa's fault, and requests that this message be forwarded to her. After this, Malina decides to risk her life in a last attempt to save herself. She reaches for the toolbox at the trunk's bottom and inserts a long iron bar into one of the wheels. Because of this, the driver loses control, and the car goes off into the lake. Soon, the car begins to flood, and Malina's leg has also recovered as the drugs have worn off. She kicks through the back seat and swims past the kidnapper. He appears to be unconscious and it seems he's going to drown soon. Malina then emerges from the shattered windshield and rises to the surface. As the police arrive at the scene, the movie comes to an end. Thus, we reach the end of this film. Thanks for watching. You can like this video to support us. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. See you in the next video. Goodbye.